everybody. Welcome. It's Wednesday football roundtable at From the Couch Sports Talk Radio. I am Sean. I am under the weather, and I apologize if I cough into my microphone constantly. I do know where the mute button is, but that's not always going to work. Correct, David?
That is correct, man.
All right.
I am the coughing champ, so.
Yes, you are. So how you doing, David?
I am doing well, and before we really begin the show, I just want to say a prayer for all the people in California. It is devastating what's going on there in LA County. There's 4 wildfires going on. I don't know if we have anybody out there who watches, but just know that us at From the Couch, you're in our thoughts and prayers, and we hope that everybody's safe and this is brought under control as soon as possible. So our thoughts are with you.
David and I both live on a mountain which is under severe drought, and so we do have a little. I can't say we have more empathy for you than anyone else, but we've dealt with firsthand with what could happen with these fires. So Eric, welcome to the show. Welcome back. Glad to have you on. See, you've already changed over to your Raiders purple. Are you feeling it?
You mean Ravens purple, because not the Raiders, but yeah. But ideally, fuck you, Sean.
I would like to say that I'm still waiting for Eric to change over to his Von Miller red, white, and blue. I hope you did put that order in for that jersey, Eric.
Yes, I did, and Amazon still hasn't delivered it yet.
Well, it will definitely be on its way. So next week, I can't wait to have you wearing that nice and proud. And I will do so in kind. I was going to do it tonight, but I got lazy, and I just wore my sweatshirt. So
yes, and one more thing, fuck you, Sean.
That's fair. That's probably the best response to that. And yes, I did say Raiders because that's how bad I feel right now. I can't keep anything straight. So if I start talking nonsense and I start sounding like these two, it's because I am sick and I'm running.
I do got to say one thing though about Eric, because it's funny because as he keeps saying that, I get flashbacks to the roast of Tom Brady on Netflix, and Eric is a little Kevin Hart over there just saying, fuck you, Sean. Like just throws him out there every once in a while. Like, I'm just going to say it throughout the show. Fuck you, Sean. There you go. So that's how we roll here From the Couch.
By the way, David, F you for calling me small like Kevin Hart.
Truth hurts.
Well, truth is, yeah, okay. So anyway, we're just going to pass on because usually David is the one who gets the crap kicked out of him on the show. Eric has kind of taken on the ceremonial role lately, and especially with his chat, he's got like 4 guys ganging up on him daily. I can't even watch the chat anymore. Thank God I'm logged into the system, so I don't have to see anything anymore. But anyway,
it was actually nice. It was actually nice, Sean, because the chat this week was not so bad. It lacked the personal attacks. It was just more or less. But we know Pittsburgh sucks. It wasn't a. And Eric finally, and Eric actually, in a quasi sort of way, admitted what we were all saying for most of the season. Not that Pittsburgh sucks, because they don't suck. And I want to make that clear to Eric, that I never said Pittsburgh sucked. All I said is that the real Russell Wilson would eventually stand up. And what we got was the real Russell Wilson from the last 4 years. So, it just happened that in Pittsburgh, and it happened at the time that it shouldn't have.
Taking a dive like Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
Yep. All right, so the games this last week we finished regular season. We're going to go over records, and I got a couple little things to point out. Is anyone watching? I don't know. Is Paoli there? Hopefully, maybe. Hello, all. What the hell did I just
There you go. That's better.
Oh, actually, what?
Do it like that until somebody else shows up. At least people can see our faces.
I kind of like that.
I know.
Cool. See, my illness is paying off in dividends.
Let's ask our viewing audience if they actually want to see us like that.
That's true. Yeah, they are getting a close picture of our mugs. Minnesota, Detroit. That That was a shellacking. Anyone see anything differently? I mean, honestly, I just wanted the little quote of Sam Darnold. I was seeing ghosts out there.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold seeing ghosts on Sunday night.
I don't know. You know, from a Detroit perspective, I thought it was fantastic the way their defense, as injured as it was, stepped up in that game. Obviously, it wasn't Sam Darnold's best game as a Viking. I think they got stopped 3 times in the within the 5-yard line. I mean, you call it the red zone, but this is like that's like the black zone. You're in the 5-yard line and you get stopped 3 times by a depleted defense. And I'm not going to pin it all on Darnold. Justin Jefferson had a couple catches that he normally makes that were just dropped. I mean, he was wide open in the end zone outright, and he just dropped the ball. So I'm not going to blame it all on Sam Darnold. But that Detroit team definitely came to play and came to show exactly what they were all season. And it was a great game for them.
Eric, any thoughts?
I don't think it's an ass whipping. I think it was routine players not making routine plays. I mean, that's what it came down to. Minnesota was in the red zone and had the opportunity to have a different game, and they just didn't execute in critical moments, similar to Team Ireland all the time. And so watching them, I actually thought, it's not as far. It's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems. It's just not making routine plays when you need to make them routinely. And they did all the work to get there. They just didn't finish. So I think if that game happens again, I don't think they should have any fear going back to Detroit. They just need to finish. So I hope they somehow meet each other again, even though they won't, unless I think Minnesota has to go to the conference final with Detroit to meet again. But I don't think Detroit should fear going back, or Detroit. I don't think Minnesota should fear going to Detroit again.
I will say one other thing real quick, Sean, and then I'll let you speak. With Detroit getting Alex Anzalone back, watching him play and getting back into the linebacker spot, and just watching Sam Darnold relentlessly under pressure, though, whatever he brought to that defense in terms of his ability to blitz, get pressure, Sam Darnold, that offensive line was having problems keeping them off of Sam Darnold all night. He was hurrying his throws. He was getting hit almost every time he threw the ball. It was just, to me, it was just domination by Detroit's defense. And it was good to see going into the playoffs because that's the side of the ball that's been hampered the most all season.
Right. I want to say one thing real quick about Dan Campbell. I've been ragging on him all year because I think he's going to make that wrong decision at the wrong time. But having heard his press conference, and this is going back actually, I don't think it was the beginning of the season. I think it was last season, when he had said that he doesn't want anyone on his team to fear trying for it on fourth. Like, we go for it on fourth, we're doing it, and he wants them to have the utmost confidence, like it's a third down and short that they're doing. I personally don't agree with him. I think it can come back to bite him in the ass, and it probably will in the postseason, but we'll see. Then we were talking about Jordan Jefferson and drop passes. Speaking of drop passes, what about George Pickens? Any comments on that?
So our offseason show will be a heck of a lot more exciting because right now we're getting through games and we're getting through results. But in terms of player movement, there's something that going on there. I think ideally some of those catches he makes, like he usually makes, pretty good. You're talking a 2-point game where the defense held the Cincinnati offense to 19 points. If you make one of those catches he drops, they probably win the game. So that is a pretty impactful thing where he's not mentally in it. Now, he is coming off an injury. I understand that, but still, some of them are pretty routine plays that he's not making routinely. And that's an issue, especially on a team that doesn't have a lot of guys that can make those routine plays. So that is a storyline to watch. I do think that that'll be one of the locations that he could be moved and we'll talk later about free agency and et cetera. But you could see a T. Higgins and a first-round draft pick go to because George Pickens probably won't be paid if he can't make routine plays routinely.
I got to say this. Look at George Pickens is one of the most talented receivers in the league. I mean, we've seen him make catches time and again that other receivers, you just like, how did he make that catch? I think the biggest thing with George Pickens is he gets into his own head. And I think when he gets into his head and the other team sees him get into his head, they get into his head. And he is just, and a lot of that is on himself, but a lot of that is on the coaching staff to get him right. He's got to understand that you are playing a team sport, and your own goals and what are tied to the team, and you have to put that into perspective. You have to be there for the team. You can't be in your own head because you're not doing you or your teammates any good. And that's the one thing, whether it's a maturity thing, whether it's his own personal stuff that goes on within his head, I don't know his mental makeup or whatever. But the coaches really have to, and the players on the field, which they've done all year, they've gone over to him between series, talk to him, settle down, get into your game, do this, do that. And I just think it's a maturity thing. And I think the coaches need to be tougher on him, and they need to make him understand.
So, Dave, I want to say something really quick. As somebody who struggles with raw emotion, and he's an emotional guy, I can kind of understand what's going through his mind. Because we live off, our emotion feeds us, and it's a great thing and it's not a great thing. So at times when things aren't going very well and we're frustrated by everything going on, it can be a deterrent where we lose track of what's going on around us because we're frustrated with ourselves, we're frustrated with things around us, and it's hard to control. But when you harness it and it's going well, it can push you to perform higher than everybody else. So as the coaches on the chat need to do with this emotional guy, I do agree. Sometimes it is nice to, just say, hey, we're here for you. We understand. At the same time, if you can't get it under control, you can't go out here and perform. And so I think in that game after I think the Freiermuth moment where he came over with Pat and he was more focused on what was going on behind him and he was not focused on what Pat was telling him. I think that would have been the point of the game where I would have pulled him to the playoffs regardless and just sat him and tried to send a message of, hey, look, get yourself under control. Because later on he came back in and he dropped a critical third down drop. And and it was nobody around him. And he was critical in that moment. They ended up getting no points on that drive, and they lost by 2 points. They just need Chris Boswell field goal, they would have won the game. So I agree with you 100%. I do think that as a professional that he will – I don't know if I'd give up on him, but there has to be a serious heart-to-heart conversation about where he's at if he's going to continue some of the antics because it's costing them in a very big way.
Oh, without a doubt. And I do want to say to our listeners and our watchers, normally we have KD on the show, but lately he's been so full of shit that he broke his water main out in front of his house. So they had to send the crew over to fix his line. So that's why you don't see KD on the show right now. He said he might show his face a little later. So we're hopeful to have him on a little later.
All right. So I don't really want to talk about the game, but the Kansas City-Denver game. Uh-oh.
Okay. You mentioned full of shit and he shows up.
Let's go, motherfuckers.
Hey, busted his water line. Now he's sitting in his car.
It's either now or never. Ain't no more talking, Eric. Hey, damn you and your conspiracies.
Hey, yeah. My conspiracies are going to continue if the script happens exactly the way I sent it. It's too bad we didn't upload that graphic, but I was sitting there and it said script leaked, and my phone must be listening to me. And I was like, son of a bitch. I said this. I said if this happens, I'm gonna.
They go with this when we're choosing games this week. Go with the script and see, because if you go perfect, then there it is. I don't know, because I don't believe there's a script, and we're gonna get to this in a minute, but there's somebody who always picks better than everyone else in this group. So yeah, just going on with it.
I'm gonna go with the script, and that sure as hell ain't me.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight, man?
We're doing good, KD. How are you doing?
I'm doing a little better now. I ate some dinner, so it took my mind off everything. So I'm good.
That's good.
Nice. You got water yet?
No.
Okay.
Neither does California.
Well, they are trying to accommodate us. So they coming up with all different kind of plans, like dropping off water and stuff like that for your usage if you need it. So
yeah,
That's
boil your water first.
right.
Well, you can't boil it if you can't get it out of the tap. So that's
Right.
that's the whole point. Kansas City, Denver, blowout. Obviously, Kansas City didn't play their starters. Chicago beating Green Bay. Like, it finally, the last game of the year, it finally happened where Chicago had a chance to win, kick a field goal, and they did it. Amazing.
What's up, Mr. Paoli? Hey, I want to go back to that the Denver Kansas City game for 1 second, because I got to ask you guys a question. And it bothered me.
I'll tell you no lies.
It bothered me to no end. And I want to ask your opinion. And I know it's a simple extra point and whatever it was. But did you see the referee basically trying to tell the Kansas City player to get off the field? He didn't throw the flag. He didn't blow the whistle. He was trying to get the 12th player off the field in the Kansas City game on the extra point. That is beyond ridiculous. The fact that a referee is trying to, hey, get off the field. You got 12 guys. I've never seen that in my life.
Do you want me to talk about this?
Go ahead.
Oh Lord.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, hold on. Let me cue the Twilight Zone music.
No. This Jeff, and I wish Jeff was here, because Jeff and I had a conversation about this today. Jeff and I were just talking about this, and I asked him. I said, "Do you think it's scripted?" And I'm actually going to pull up the message here and read to you what he said, because I know I sound like I'm in the Twilight Zone, but he kind of confirmed what I was thinking. So when we were talking about this today, Jeff's response to me, I said, "Do you think it's scripted?" And he said, "No." But he said, if Buffalo and Philly end up in the Super Bowl, you'll agree it's rigged, but they are the best teams in football. I'm not saying it isn't rigged, but I'm saying any given Sunday, and I believe that. And then I said, well, I want the players to decide games, not long reviews, not referees, bias, etc. And he says it's a business first, and it will always be a business. Sure. So therefore, that is the people that are running the business are Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar in the AFC. So therefore, they get extra privilege. And that is an example of extra privilege going on, where the rest of the league, even if you take out the bias officiating, they don't have the money makers at the most important position. So therefore, teams like Pittsburgh will always get negative bias calls, because they are small market teams without a money-making quarterback. And since Ben has left, none of these guys can add up. And so therefore, that's why Kansas City got that call.
Let's just 1 second to think about, and I see what you're saying, but do the teams with the fans who are the biggest assholes get the calls against them? Because no offense, but Pittsburgh, you people are assholes. The Jets, we're assholes. The Raiders are assholes.
Hey, if I can boost that last comment, Sean, I would, like, by 1,000, like 100% assholes.
Now I will say this, and this is my thing though. This is the one, like, you showed us the script and how it all played out. I will say this, in my honest opinion, based on what your script was, I think that the NFL, if they were a money making and what would draw the most viewers and what would draw the most interest to that would not be the one team against Philadelphia. It would be the one team against Detroit, personally, because from a scripted standpoint, you would have two teams that have never won. You would have two teams that basically have been adopted by most of the country, and you would probably have one of your biggest viewerships of a Super Bowl in recent memory. So if it's just all based on business and money, and I know Jared Goff isn't the money maker, I know the Saquon Barkley story in Philadelphia, along with Jalen Hurts and those other guys, might be the story. But from a business marketing point of view, from a money-making Super Bowl, I think the Detroit and the other team
I don't
far outdo.
I don't disagree because Detroit's like an underdog, but Jalen Hurts, I was looking at, and this was fascinating. It all ties into what I've been looking at. Jalen Hurts is one of the more marketable quarterbacks in terms of how much he brings in in advertisements. So I don't disagree with you, but his face is everywhere. And so like I said, I'm on the fence about it because there's just some hokey things that as I get older, I see, and especially as I coach, the more I talk to KD and the more I talk to some of these guys who I coach with, and I see things. And from this side of view, some of it just seems bizarre about what happens. Like you're like, man, this is really bizarre what's going on. And
Let me just pose this. Why wouldn't then the NFL be totally vested and going crazy with Tyreek Hill? Because no offense, in 3 years, he could double the viewership of the NFL by himself by planting his seed everywhere. Is that a possibility? Okay, so I digress.
Hey, between him and Antonio Cromartie, hey, look, we the population will never go down.
You know, I'm going to tell you right now, just so you're tracking, Tyreek Hill makes more money on the earned income tax credit than he does on an NFL contract.
Wow.
Hey,
he's still getting Tyreek Hill still getting stimulus checks.
Hey, sponsored by TurboTax here tonight. There are
I'm
sorry. We got to stop, man. We're going to get canceled.
Sorry, I couldn't hit the button fast enough. Okay, so next point of thing. Everyone's going to have like 3 minutes to talk about anything they want. The next segment, I'm going to go first. So the head coaching jobs that are up are the Jets, the Saints, New England, Jacksonville, the Raiders, the Bears, and the Titans. So first I want to say Rex Ryan will be the next head coach of the New York Jets. That's a done deal. It's going to happen there, but the rest of their interviews, people are going to take the job. But like they have fucking Matt Nagy. Like what did he do? He went like 3-13 with his last team. So no, he's out. Vrabel ain't going there. Vrabel is definitely going to New England. If anyone disagrees with me, please in your segment explain why. But Vrabel is going to New England without a doubt. And I could see the Bears, if Pete Carroll was to take that position, would be amazing. So out of all these teams, I don't know who's going where. They all have a bunch of interviews. But Vrabel's the big name out there that people want. They got a couple others, but they're grabbing coordinators and whatever. And I just don't think anything's going to happen except for Rex Ryan, Jets, Vrabel, New England. And I would like to see Pete Carroll in Chicago. Let's go to David first.
Yeah. I think Vrabel's a done deal. He interviews tomorrow. New England's already interviewed Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton. So the Rooney Rule has been fulfilled for that position. Vrabel will probably be announced tomorrow or Friday as the head coach of New England. Rex Ryan, while I believe he's the favorite, I don't necessarily agree because if I'm the Jets, I want to bring a coach and I want to bring a GM who have the same philosophy and culture. Okay. And, if Rex Ryan is the coach in New York, then Aaron Rodgers definitely will not be in New York. That is a given. So again, depending on what happens with him, says a lot. As far as Chicago, I think Pete Carroll would do wonders with Caleb Williams. He does well with young players. He gets them to play as they progress in their career. Pete Carroll is not the greatest coach, but for young players, I think Pete Carroll does wonders, and he does wonders developing if he gets the right people involved. Like I could see him bringing back a Darren Bevel. He did wonders with Russell Wilson when he was younger. He's a good offensive coordinator. So that might not be bad. I know that Tom Brady reached out to Bill Belichick to find out what it would take for him to leave North Carolina to go to the Raiders. I don't think he's interested in that. The one job that interests me is Jacksonville. And I say that because, and what I mean by that is with all of the offensive coaches, the guys that are being talked about, I think a guy like Ben Johnson going to Jacksonville might help in Trevor Lawrence's development a little bit. The other jobs, the Saints job, that team's it's gonna be a couple of years. Derek Carr's not going to take a pay cut. Again, I don't know. I think this is going to be a big offensive coaching cycle hire. And the Raiders job, if Bill Belichick don't take that, I don't know. I think Aaron Glenn should get a decent look at a head coaching job. He's done a hell of a job with Detroit, and he really deserves a shot at a head coaching job in the NFL somewhere.
Okay, real quick before we move on, Paoli, absolutely. Let me just finish. Once we're done here, I just want to. It boggles my mind how Dable and the Browns head coach, is it Sirianni or something like that? Stefanski. How the fuck do these guys still have jobs? Anyway, Eric, you go on your 3 minute, and then we can talk about those things.
All right. So at Jacksonville, first of all, part of the problem with that franchise is I do think they want to get that team overseas, and I don't think they're going to be a serious contender because they're trying to get out of Jacksonville. So, I mean, it's a kind of a tenuous job. I don't think a Ben Johnson who knows he's not going to get the real support he would need in Jacksonville because I don't think they're serious about contending would want to go there. I will say this, and I'm going to use the Tomlin face. I almost pulled it off from Saturday night. If they get beat, which according to the script they will, I'm going to pick the script. I could see him ending up in Chicago and that trade happening because they need a franchise quarterback, and Chicago, quote unquote, maybe drafted theirs. They think they did, even though I don't think he. We'll see if he pans out. So I'll throw that name out there. Out of all the coaches that I would be interested in, that I think can inspire a team and that has a good game plan, I don't think it's Vrabel. I don't think it's any of these. Ben Johnson, I think he could be a good coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. But I like Aaron Glenn up in Detroit. His game plan last week, he game plans really well. The players follow him. They seem to willing to go that extra mile and sacrifice, and that's huge, especially in football, because a lot of them make business decisions and if they don't buy in, you can tell they're not bought in, that kind of thing. I think he can lead. In all honesty, he would be the hottest candidate I would be interested in as even though he's not an offensive mind. But the thing about the offensive minds and the coaching staff is a lot of retreads around. Vrabel's ceiling is a hard-nosed 10-7 team that runs the ball really well and plays really tough defense. He's not going to be an elite coach who gets them to 15-2 like Andy Reid is. And maybe that's what Tomlin needs, because maybe his message is stale, and maybe he, like Andy Reid, left in Philly just needs to go somewhere where his message resonates better. Because I mean, look at Andy Reid in Philly, and they similar things going on. They never could get over the hump again, and then Andy Reid goes to Kansas City, and he's freaking genius, and that's working out wonderful. So I mean, looking at the coaching candidates, I don't know if any of these jobs are necessarily appetizing to me, just because of the way the teams are and the lack of a true franchise quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence is not a franchise quarterback.
Okay, let's get to KD real quick. He's a black man sitting in a car in a parking lot alone. He's probably going to get arrested in the next 20 seconds, so go for it, KD.
Hey, don't worry. I'm in the hood, and this is my own car.
All right.
I'm
you
good.
Got the papers to prove it?
Hey, look. And I got my hazards out, and I got my I Love White People sticker in the back.
Nice.
Hey, what street are you sitting at? Let me call Colorado.
Martin Luther King Parkway.
I'm gonna call Colorado Springs PD. I'll send them a card.
Hey, so man. Hey, look,
that'd be totally fucked up.
Hey, they're just like Eric was saying. None of these jobs are appeasing at all whatsoever. The only job that I would take if I was in this cycle would be the New England job, because it's something that I mentioned in our chat. 130 million in cap. They got some good first round draft picks. They got a good nucleus to build off of. They got rid of some cancerous type of behavior in the receiving core and on the defensive side of the ball. So right now they're basically starting all over fresh. The other thing about it is the owner is not the first one to talk at the press conference. A lot of people forget Robert Kraft is the owner of the Patriots because he spent most of his times in massage parlors and hanging out at strip clubs with Meek Mill. So he's totally opposite of all the other 31 owners in the NFL. So that's probably right. He's preoccupied. But he's not trying to offer $1.5 million either for people body parts. So my bad. I'm sorry.
Wow.
All right. So for me, it's the Patriots' job. The Patriots' job is the one that I would have went after. And just like I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, my perfect pairing would have been Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel. That would have been my perfect pairing. Reason being is because you're going to get that hard-nosed defensive style, but then you get also a glimpse into that offensive genius when it comes down to, hey, okay, look, I know I don't have the horses. However, I can put these guys in a spot to where they can go win and be productive and so forth and so on. But since that ship is going to sail, I still like Sean was saying. I think it was Sean that said it. Pete Carroll up in Chicago with Caleb Williams, but you got to get him a defensive mind. And if Vrabel is going to go to New England, give me Robert Salah up in Midway, because again, if you have that, you have a good core of defensive players in Chicago already. You don't have to fix too much. All you got to do is build their confidence and empower them and bring some of your young guys along the way, and you'll be right back where you were when it comes down to competing for, if nothing else, an NFC championship or possibly a trip to the Super Bowl.
Hey, Katie, let me just ask you one question, because I asked you last week, and now if what we all assume is Vrabel's probably a done deal in New England. I understand I said this to you last week and you kind of shook your head, but understanding you have Drake May, you have a young quarterback. Your receiving core is not the greatest, but they're starting to get more of a connection with May. I suggested Ashton Genty going to New England. And the only reason I say that is the one thing that Vrabel had going for him with Tennessee, and I'm not saying that this guy is Derrick Henry or the second coming, but with the strong running game and Drake May being a young quarterback, and them having the fourth pick and not really having, they don't have the quarterback need and so on and so forth. If they got a guy like Vrabel who brought in that type of offense that he ran with Tennessee, do you think that might persuade them maybe to go in that direction just because of having that young quarterback with the strong running game?
You already had that in New England. Ramondre Stevenson. It's the same running back. It's the same guy. Here's the thing. What I would do if I was New England, I would if they got a top 5 pick, which I think they do, right? So I would trade back to probably 10 or 12. I would take Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris, right? I would take Trey Harris as my first pick because he's probably gonna be gone in the end of the first round, before the end of the first round. And then whatever I got to do to get my hands on Scatterbo, that's who I would take. And here's the reason why. You can attach Scatterbo to the line in the tight end or H-back type of situation, and that's been their MO, to move players around and do different things with them. So again, I think you'll get more bang for your buck without basically saying, hey, look, if Genty is not that guy, I end up with the same person, or I waste a pick on him and it turns out he's the same exact guy, if that makes sense to you.
Gotcha. No, I get it. I understand that.
And because I think their offensive line is starting to solidify, and their offensive line starting to solidify, I would definitely go in those particular ways. I would go in those particular areas. But then here's the last kicker. If I was them, you got Joe Milton. Joe Milton is probably not going to be your starter, right? So he's probably going to end up being a backup. If teams come calling to me, I would entertain the best option. I will tell you a team that needs to look at him. A team that needs to look at him is this guy's team over here. So if his team calls you and say, hey, look, I want to give you Joe Milton, but I need something in return. Oh yeah, by the way, keep George Pickens. I don't want him here. So if a team like that comes to calling, I would make that particular trade of getting Joe Milton off of my roster,
Well,
not because he's a
you know
bad
what
quarterback.
other team? You know what other team would be? I don't know how the.
Oh Lord, Jesus Christ! The Jets.
Sean, the Jets.
Here's the deal.
Absolutely.
I want to agree with that. I would take Joe Milton for any of these under
Because you know who wants to get out of New York? Garrett Wilson.
Everybody.
Garrett Wilson.
Hey, here's the deal. Here, what would be really great if this happens, if we get Joe Milton for, I don't know, over Russell Wilson because he's taking a dive and he's old. And
Take TJ Watt.
And
Joe Milton for TJ Watt.
No, F you, not Sean. F you, Dave. I'm not trading TJ Watt for Joe Milton. He's an unproven, but I take him because at this point, you need a quarterback that can move, and anything that can happen. But if New England's in a good spot because they do. Drake May, I think, is going to be okay, and Joe Milton, I think, is going to be okay as well. And I think it's a good spot to go with the young quarterback. It's obviously proven that these old guys can't do it. And I don't want to end up like the Indianapolis Colts retreading old quarterbacks year after year because, I mean, Colts do that all the time. And look where that franchise is at. So I absolutely agree. And, Sean, I hope you get Justin Fields.
Oh, fuck you.
Absolutely no. Absolutely no. I'm not even nowhere near a Jets fan, but I would slap somebody. Like, no, absolutely not.
Don't you put that hate on me, Ricky Bobby.
Where did the Jets draft?
7.
7?
Yeah, that's why Rodgers is staying. The Jets are not going to get a quarterback at 7.
They might get a quarterback. There might be one there at 7.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay. So anyway, after the
Shedeur
floor
Sanders.
Okay, anyway. Everyone has 1 minute. How the fuck did Dable and Browns coach? How the hell did they keep the jobs? KD, explain this to me.
Well, I'll let y'all other three panel members talk about those guys. The one guy I want to talk about why he isn't fired is beyond me. Is Trent Baalke from Jacksonville Jaguars GM. Look, I'm sorry. He has to have some nude pictures or something of the owner doing some crazy stuff. He has to have some like drug smuggling campaign or something. He has to have some kind of dirt on Khan because there's no way like that dude has survived 2 head coaches. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, you're not getting the job done. Like, they got to be in like a secret relationship or something. Like, I don't believe it.
Eric.
Brian Daboll. So here's the deal. I have enlightened you on this chat with Brian Daboll. He's one of my favorite subjects, actually, because these guys, see, I can point right. This guy does not like him, but this guy also took the most success they've had in the playoffs was under Dayball, and Dayball also is a coach of the year. Dayball did not have the tools, and they knew after Saquon Barkley left that this was going to be a rebuild. So rather than just say, hey, we're going to fire you, it wasn't really Dayball's fault. I'm surprised actually the GM didn't have any consequence because it was more his fault that Saquon ended up not coming. But here's the deal with running backs. As Christian McCaffrey is an example of this, Saquon had a great year, but he's not going to have a consecutive 3 or 4 great years in a row. He will be hurt and he'll have injuries, and you can find running backs a lot cheaper, and it's a hard way to build. Right now, Philadelphia, I'm going to tell you, it's all or nothing right now. If they don't do it this year or next year, they won't do it. And that franchise will go through what the rest of these franchises are going through in terms of reloading and having to go through different talents. Running backs like him, like Derrick Henry, Baltimore's in a 2 to 3 year window right now. It's the same thing. You're not going to go be great. It's like, hey, let's try to win a Super Bowl and let's try to do it now. And so that's what Philadelphia did. That's what Baltimore did with these big running backs. The Giants were not going to do it with Saquon, so they're already started their rebuild, and they knew they started their rebuild. That's why they're not firing Daboll. Daboll is their guy because he's been coach of the year, and he got to the second round with Mac Jones. He might as well be Mac Jones with freaking God, I'm killing me. Sean, quarterback. He's at the Vikings. Danny Dimes. I hate him. Or I don't hate. I strongly dislike him because he's not a very good quarterback. But he got him the second round with Danny Dimes. So the Giants will be fine. They're going through their rebuild right now, and they're doing it the right way to try to get a franchise quarterback.
Well, yeah. So I get that, you want to have continuity. I get the collapse. I get the poor choice of letting Saquon walk and putting it all on Daniel Jones. Again, Daniel Jones was a victim of circumstance that was good for him. His contract fell at a time, just like I said. Brian Daboll just got hired. He took them to the second round of the playoffs, and it was either, okay, we got to the second round of the playoffs. Do we pay our quarterback the market rate, or do we tell our fans that we just got to the second round of the playoffs that we're going to rebuild? So Daniel Jones had New York's back against the wall, and he had the GM and everything because Mara wasn't going to tell New York that, hey, we made the playoffs, but now we're going to get rid of our starting quarterback and start over. So that was just the circumstance surrounding that was just great timing for Daniel Jones, poor timing for the Giants. I think if the Giants didn't do anything, there would be more of a grace period for Daboll and Shane to do what they had to do. The one thing that I will say, and I don't know this quarterback class coming out altogether. I've heard a couple names. Do we think that there is a guy going to be drafted this year who is going to be that franchise quarterback for 10 years? And if so, who is that, KD?
You're going to watch him, I think, tomorrow night from Notre Dame.
Okay, so
if you could take his thing is he can take over the game passing or running.
Right.
So again, I'm not sitting here saying he's the second coming of Joe Burrow or second coming of Josh Allen. I'm sitting here saying he is one of those quarterbacks that you can get, and it's not because again, teams are not going to overreach for him unless he wins the national championship. Teams are not going to overreach for him. But if he wins the national championship, I can almost assure you he's going to probably ascend to a top 5 pick.
So who has the first pick?
Titans.
The Giants.
Okay,
Titans.
So they could go quarterback or they could go Travis Hunter, right?
Tennessee Titans have the first pick of the draft.
Right. So, and the second pick goes to Jacksonville?
2025.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you guys on the spot.
I knew this, but I'm too sick to remember. All right. So we got Tennessee. 2 is the Cleveland Browns. 3 is the Giants. 4 the Patriots. 5 Jacksonville.
Hey,
Okay.
you know what would be funny, real quick, Dave. So I got the list of quarterbacks that are coming in the draft, and looking at them, I agree. You know who I think's a sleeper who doesn't have a lot of talent around him. I like Aller out of Penn State. Actually, I think he's big, he's mobile, and I think he might be a sneaky pick. But Cleveland's picking, and Cleveland's going to take a quarterback, even though they've got.
Oh yeah, you're going to take a
They're
quarterback.
going to take a quarterback. I would love Deion's son to end up there because I think that would be quite the storyline if Shador ended up in Cleveland. You're shaking your head. You're shaking your head. I think it'd be funny because I think Deion would pitch a fit when things were.
Deion would pitch a fit, and it would be one of those. Eli Manning did not want to play for the Chargers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so again, I look at it from the standpoint of if I'm the Giants, okay, and here's my issue with the Giants. And again, I think that might be another reason why they didn't get fired is what coach are you going to bring to New York that's going to look at the pick at number 4 and say, okay, do we have a surefire number 1 bona fide franchise guy that's going to turn our organization around on day 1? And so I think Mara was in a rock and a hard place because you can't sell the team that you have to a coach and a coaching staff. I mean, yeah, it's one of 32 jobs and anybody would jump at the opportunity to do it. But in a place like New York, where they expect results right away, I just don't know if that guy that's going to be behind center is going to be that guy, especially when you have one, maybe 2 teams in front of you that need a quarterback, that you're going to pick the guy that's going to define your franchise for the next 10 years. And so I think that made it a little harder for Mara to justify getting rid of both Shane and Dable and see what they have to work with and see who falls to them. I mean, I honestly think like Shador Sanders could be one of those guys that falls there.
Well, yeah, the cleats.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, but again, it's all about. I mean, we know that after they cut Danny Dimes, Joe Shane was in Colorado watching Shador Sanders practice. So he's a player that they covet. So we'll see.
All right.
Be interesting.
All right. So we're going to move on here. So after week 18, here's where we ended up. Jeff was 10-6 at 180-92 in third place. David 178-94, 9-7 last week. That gives you fourth place. KD was 183-89, came in second place. Eric was 155-117 in fifth place, and I was 188-84, putting me again 2 years in a row in first place for your picks. So next year, when you're like trying to pick games, obviously you listen to me. Hot Pockets also at 11-5, came out at 189-83. We did have a conversation on Sunday night. He did want to switch several of his picks because he felt bad. Because on the show he said just whatever Sean picks, I'm picking the same. So basically he couldn't lose. He felt bad about it. He called me up, but I didn't let him change his picks. Anyway, but Paoli, we're going to do the playoff picks. So you got to pick and see if you can beat me for the entire year. So there you go. You got a 1-game lead on me. And we'll start to go there. So anyway, let's go to wild card. And I don't know if these are in order or not, but here are your matchups. We'll quickly discuss the games and pick a winner. And Eric, stick to your script, man. Stick to the script. Okay, so we got Chargers at Houston. What are your thoughts on this game, Eric?
I actually think I think Houston did get off the schneid, but they didn't look great against Tennessee. The script says the Chargers. The Chargers are the logical pick because they're the more sound football team playing better football right now. So I'm going to go LA here.
All right. I am also going to agree with Eric. I think the Chargers are the better team. Houston's had a skid. I I think with all the injuries and everything coming in, they don't look like the team like they did last year. They don't look like the same team. And I think the Chargers are going to win this one. And David.
You know, I've been going back and forth on this. I mean, the Chargers have been playing some great football. Houston has just been decimated with injuries. You know, the last game of the season, Quentin Johnson probably had his best game as a pro. I think he caught 13 or 14 passes for almost 200 yards or something. But again, you know, it's that consistency that you need from those guys. And I know the Chargers have been – it's so tough. I think this is going to be a lot closer game. I'm going to take the Chargers, but it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I'm not just going to anoint the Chargers because, again, I've seen teams turn it up in the playoffs. Houston is at home. They're going to be playing with a lot of heart, passion, and pride. Their defense isn't that bad. But I'm going to take the Chargers by a field goal in this game. It's not going to be a big blowout like people tend to think.
I don't think it's going to be a blowout either. And all I know is Chargers, I think the Chargers are going to win this game, and then they're going to lose because they are a warm weather dome team, and wherever they play is going to be outside and not in the fucking dome. So they are screwed after that. Okay, so our next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. I think Baltimore is going to win that game. David.
Yeah, like I said, I think we've seen the good, bad, and ugly of Russell Wilson, and it happened at the wrong time of the season. You know, I think from the beginning of the year we said that the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season we're going to really tell the Pittsburgh Steelers what they really were, because that was the hardest stretch of their season in terms of teams they played. Yeah, they played Cincinnati extremely tough and lost just because, again, George Pickens. And again, I think with this rivalry, in order for Pittsburgh to have any chance, George Pickens needs to get out of his head. I just think the Ravens are going to be too tough. So I'm going to take Baltimore for that reason, and the fact they're playing at home.
All right. Eric, let's hear it.
Okay, so the script says the Ravens, so I'm going to follow the script. My prediction is, I was reading an article today, and I agree with this. I think the loser head coach is no longer with the team next year, and that goes for Baltimore too. I think that here's the thing, and I've thought about this really hard. If for Baltimore, it's you loaded the deck, and this is supposed to be the year, so you need to come through and win. For Pittsburgh, I think it's, we have not had great show. The Cincinnati showing was on the offense. The defense actually played a great game, and they got after Burrow and they beat him up. If you come out like you have in the playoffs every year and lay an egg and get toasted here, I think it's going to be hard to come back. I think there's a lot of pressure mounting from the media, from us fans. I think that there is movement in that. So I think his back's against the wall, and this is going to tell us a lot about who he is and his coordinators. At the very least, both the coordinators are going to be gone if they have a terrible showing. But I do think this is going to be competitive the more I think about it. I do think I do favor Baltimore. They're at home, and they're the better team. The Ravens are the better team right now. But I do think that the pressure to perform, if there's going to be a moment where they come out swinging, it's got to be now, or I think he's done. And I think it's going to – I don't know if you can come back from that.
Yeah, that's a great, thought about whichever team loses, head coach is gone. because both these teams are kind of the same, where they constantly make it to the playoffs, but they can't ever do anything in the playoffs. Never quite thought about it like that, but good look. Okay, so David, Denver Broncos at the Bills.
This game, and I don't care what anybody says, I don't care what Jeffrey says, this game scares the hell out of me. I've been saying this team, the Broncos, for the last 2 months. They are a sneaky good team. They've got all around, I think they're the number, 2 or 3 defense.
They're definitely top 5.
And their linebacker, I mean, the good thing about it is, I think they are second in sacks in the league, but Buffalo is first in sacks, the fewest sacks taken. So, meaning from the standpoint of in 17 games, the Bills have taken 14 sacks. So, this is a kind of game that I think, because of how Buffalo is personnel-wise, a team that can spread the ball around to multiple people, and they don't have to rely on a true number 1 receiver. And all 3 of our running backs, Cook, Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson, can catch the ball out of the backfield. They can put a lot of pressure on their linebackers to have to stay and not be able to put as much pressure on Buffalo as they can against other teams, because they have to play Buffalo honest, because our running backs have that potential against their linebackers. I believe from a matchup standpoint, Buffalo wins this game, but this game is going to be a dogfight, and it's going to be close, because to me, Denver is playing with house money. They're a team that wasn't supposed to be there. They're a team that nobody thought was going to be there, and they can just go out and let it all hang out. There's a lot of pressure on Buffalo. There's a lot of pressure on Sean McDermott to prove that, he's been here 7 times already, and you haven't gotten beyond the championship game, okay? You've been to 1 championship, and you lost your division round the other years. So a lot of the pressure falls on Buffalo. Sean Payton and Denver is playing with house money right now. They got a rookie quarterback. Nobody expected Denver to be here this year in this position. So they got nothing to lose. And I think they're going to let it all hang out on the field and let the chips fall where they may. But I think from a matchup standpoint, I think Buffalo gets by, but it's going to be a very close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like some people predict. The closer the game is, I would almost, if it's a real close game, I'd almost go Denver, just because I think Buffalo wants to get it out of the way and get the lead early and keep adding to it.
Okay, so I've got, the script says Buffalo, and I'll be quick. I've got it 28-27 Buffalo. Buffalo. I've got Denver missing a 41-yard field goal to win. I have them missing a 41-yard field goal at the end of the game. I have it a dogfight the whole way. I have Buffalo up 28 to. It'll be 28-20, it'll be like 28 to 13, and I have Denver coming back in this game, scoring a couple touchdowns, and then driving to nobody scoring in the fourth quarter until Denver drives and puts a drive together, and to give them hope, because they're going to have hope. It'll be one of these losses where Denver loses, but they actually spring into the offseason, into next season with a lot of momentum, because I think they're going to play tough and they're going to take Buffalo to the limit. And I think they'll get there. I just think they're going to probably come up just short, probably on something like a 41-yard field goal. He'll miss, and Buffalo will survive. But I have the Bills winning. I will speak for Jeffrey. Bullshit. Bills win 56-10.
Bullshit.
All right. Sorry. I'm also going Buffalo in this game. All right, our next one goes to Eric. The Packers at the Eagles. What are you thinking on this one?
Here's the deal, and I'm going to be really butthurt if this happens. Is Jalen Hurts out of concussion protocol?
He's practicing today.
He
went through the walkthrough, but he didn't practice. He's still in protocol. But
Okay.
He walked through.
If we're sitting here next week and Kenny Pickett wins a playoff game, and I am going to be so butthurt that Kenny Pickett won a playoff game and I'm out of the playoffs. So the script says the Eagles, so I'm going to pick the Eagles and stay with the script. But I just want it noted that I may be a little emotional next week if Kenny Pickett wins.
All right. I'm also going with the Eagles after Green Bay showing last week at Chicago. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it for that team. I think they're a little overrated for what their record is. David?
Yeah, I think this game, it's the Saquon Barkley show, I think. Personally, I think Saquon was really pissed that he didn't get a chance to break the record last week. As much as he was talking, being a team player and all that, I think his offensive line, I think they're pissed that they didn't let him break the record. So I think Saquon Barkley's going to put on a show. So if Kenny Pickett has to hand the ball off 40 times, I don't care who the quarterback is, because I don't think it's going to come down to who the quarterback is for Philly. I think this is the Saquon show, and I think Philly's just going to be too much.
Okay, just to clarify, yes. Fields, oh my God. Sorry, Paoli. Oh my God. Jalen Hurts did practice. They had practice. Okay. He did play. He did practice.
Okay.
Oh my God. Next year, Justin Fields gets traded for Jalen Hurts.
Jets.
Right across Pittsburgh. We're gonna switch.
He's just going straight down the 90 to New York. And he'll be in Jetsville.
God. There you go. I'll be okay with that.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, so then we got the Commanders at the Bucks. And of course, I gotta go first on this one, don't I? Oh, this is tough. I don't have a lot of faith in Washington. I mean, they've won some games, and I don't think they're as good as they are. But Tampa Bay, I mean, they're driving me nuts. They barely got past backup quarterback at home to get in the playoffs. So how the hell do you measure this one? I mean, if you guys have any ideas, I'd be open to any suggestions. But the only reason I'm going for Tampa Bay is because they're at home. But it doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to go Tampa, being at home. David.
Again, this is another game where you got a team that's playing with house money in Washington. I don't think anybody expected Washington to be here with Jaden Daniels. Again, I think the pressure falls on Tampa. They have a veteran quarterback. They have a veteran wide receiver, their defense. Antonio Winfield Jr. is back at practice, so that if he can play, that's going to be a boost to Tampa. But the last 2-3 weeks, seeing Jaden Daniels do what he does on the field and willing his team back to win and coming back. Tampa can't take him lightly. And I'm going to agree with Paoli. I'm taking Washington in a close contest. I don't know if that alters your script any, Eric, but if it does, then I think the script is wrong because I think Washington pulls this out.
Eric, what's the script say?
The Bucks. I believe the Bucks winning here is in the script. They're at home. I do think I'm going to channel my inner Jeffrey here since he's not on the show tonight and is mysteriously missing and not answering Dave's call. By the way, Jeff, if you do listen to this later on, answer the phone when your brother calls you. He loves you. So, anyways, bullshit. Baker Mayfield's great. Bullshit. Every team needs to take Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield throws 4 touchdowns and the Bucs win.
All right. I did love it at the last play of the game. They could have just knelt, but they had to get Mike Evans that money. So that was awesome. All right. So the last one is this is interesting. The Vikings at the Rams. Wow. Kind of don't know what to say about this one. But I think it's Eric. You get this one? Eric, me, David, Eric,
Yeah,
me.
My kid's he loves the Vikings, and honestly, the script says the Rams, by the way. And so I'm gonna pick what their script says and see how correct it is versus my own picks, because obviously being in last place and having a bunch of Tomlin 8-8 finishes, I got to do better than that. So the idea of that, I think the game wasn't as bad as what it really was, because the Vikings weren't doing routine plays routinely in the red zone in critical moments. They weren't executing at critical situations, but they did all the work to get there. So ideally, I don't think they're that far behind. I just think they didn't finish. But that being said, the Rams are in the script, and I do think that the Rams are at home, and I think that's a dangerous team, because I do think Stafford is still a quarterback that knows how to win, understands the game. He understands pre-snap where to go with the ball, and he's still got the horses at wide receiver, where I think I'll take the Rams.
Okay.
I am I'm torn on this one because there's 2 reasons. First of all, there's a very real possibility, based on the wildfires in California, this game could be moved to either Las Vegas or Arizona. Just because with the wildfires in Los Angeles, if it's bad from a smoke standpoint or anything, depending on how fast they get it under control, it could be a dangerous situation to be playing there come Monday night. So we'll have to watch for that. I think if that happens, the advantage definitely goes to Minnesota. When you have to uproot your team, I mean, Minnesota's going to have to travel anyway, but if you have to take the Rams and move them to Vegas or to Arizona to play a game because they can't play at home, you're basically taking your entire operation of your home field advantage and moving that.
Dave, real quick, Sean, I had to go back in our chat because but when I go back to the chat, it's actually the Vikings, so I will take the Vikings.
Oh, okay.
And again, the only thing that I'm curious about in this game really is that Vikings offensive line as bad as they showed last week against Detroit, because the Rams defensive front, Jared Verse is going to probably be the defensive rookie of the year. And I'm telling you, if they can get the pressure on Darnold like Detroit had last week, it could be another long night for Minnesota. That being said, I am going to take Minnesota by a field goal, but this game's going to be close.
Okay. Real quick, I'm sorry. I misread the question. I'm sick, Anthony, so my brain's really not here. But he said, if you were a GM, who would you pay, Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy? I got to go with Brock Purdy, just because.
I'd go Sam Darnold because, quite frankly, and I look at it this way: if you're paying Brock Purdy in Frisco, you're going to have to dismantle a third of your team, because you're going to have to get rid of quite a few assets on your team, because from a salary standpoint, you can't afford everybody you have and pay your quarterback $50 million a year. It's just the contracts that Frisco has. I mean, even if you tried to push money ahead and move it all around, you're still right up against the salary cap right now to begin with.
I cannot wait till we get to the off season and Dave contradicts himself and says and we start talking
Cap
about
is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
the salary cap is a fictitious number, and he starts going on about all.
Well, it is fictitious in the standpoint of how you do it. The problem is that look at they've just redid Deshaun Watson's contract again. The fact of the matter is, while it's a fictitious and floating number, at some point you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, and the Browns are just delaying the pain by doing
right.
it.
And if San Francisco, they're going to be paying aging veterans and guys who've been injured all year and guys who are injury prone, Christian McCaffrey, all those guys, those contracts are going to catch up to them sooner or later. And at that point, you have to decide, is Brock Purdy a $60 million quarterback?
I don't
think he is.
I don't think he is. I'm not really buying into – and San Francisco's finished, by the way. This is the end of them.
That's what I mean. So,
yeah, I mean,
but if I had to pay one or the other, that's why I would pay Darnold.
Yeah, and this is the consequence of being a great team for a long while.
And on that note, just remember, Minnesota does have J.J. McCarthy, and there will be teams that will call Minnesota this offseason to inquire who need a quarterback about J.J. McCarthy.
I agree.
And Minnesota could make a lot of headway with draft picks and capital by trading J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, Minnesota's in a really good spot. They're going to be really good because they've got the asset that they're going to get a first-round pick out of McCarthy. Somebody's going to give it to them. So I agree with you. I would pick. I don't want to do either. If that sounds good, because if I had to gun to my head, I had to pay him. It would be probably Darnold. But I don't think it's only 1 year for Darnold, and I'm not sold. That's why I would be hesitant to trade McCarthy, because I'm not sold that this is a long-term solution, and that we don't have a Geno Smith situation. As much as I love Geno, but we don't have a Geno Smith situation going on here. And with Purdy, they're finished, and wait till you see what happens when that team has to dismantle now because of the consequence of trying to win a Super Bowl and failing to do so, where they start having to take that down, and he has less talent around him. He's going to – I mean, it's going to suck. So I wouldn't pay him either. But that's a great question. Thanks for asking, Anthony.
Yep. All right. So, sorry, guys. I am picking the Rams in this one. I think being the home team, I think that gives them an advantage. They played really well at home this year. Basically, guys, I gotta go. I am feeling markedly worse every minute that passes. I am feeling worse and worse.
That's wrap.
So it's going around, man. Take about 2 weeks, because that's what it's going to be.
How many weeks?
About 2 weeks.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, right. I had it. It took me about 3 or 4 days, but just make sure you get your zinc in.
Yeah, it took me about 3 or 4 days to start feeling better. I've still had the cough off and on. My wife's been sick since Christmas, so so it's beating her butt.
Damn it! I had COVID over the summer. I don't want that crap again.
No, this is an upper respiratory thing going around.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wind it up. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. All the new folks and the old folks.
I know Katie was going to try to make it back, but I guess he couldn't. And Jeffrey never comes on.
Katie and Jeff's picks.
And Jeffrey never comes on because he's too busy spanking the monkey or something. I don't know.
Yeah, spanking the monkey is meaning making money. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
He's just spanking the monkey.
All righty. Well, on that note.
Bullshit.
All right. So, in regards to Jeff, the last bullshit of the night, we're going to wind it up. You guys have a great weekend, and we will see you next Wednesday from the couch.
Peace.